My name is Garrett Turner, and at 32 years old I thought I understood the meaning of trust. As a software engineer in Seattle, I built systems that required bulletproof security. Yet somehow I handed my credit card to my sister Amanda when she looked me in the eyes and said, "I just need it for groceries." By morning, $8,700 had vanished. What happened next changed our family forever. Before I continue my story, let me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe if someone you trusted has ever betrayed you. Growing up as the youngest child in the Turner family had its advantages. Our home in suburban Portland was comfortable enough, not wealthy by any means, but we never went hungry. From an early age, I developed a reputation as the responsible one. While other kids spent their allowances on candy and video games, I saved mine carefully, tracking every dollar in a blue notebook my father had given me for my 10th birthday. Amanda was 3 years older, and for much of our childhood she was my protector. When bullies targeted me in elementary school for being the quiet kid who liked math and computers, Amanda would step in her fierce loyalty, making even 6th graders back down. One memory stands out vividly when I was 9. A group of older boys cornered me on the playground. Before I could even feel afraid, Amanda appeared, stood in front of me, and told them if they touched her little brother they would regret it. They scattered like leaves in the wind. That day, Amanda became my hero. This dynamic created a deep bond between us. I looked up to her with admiration and gratitude that remained even as we grew older, and our paths diverged dramatically. Amanda was charismatic, popular, and spontaneous, where I was methodical, introverted, and cautious. She lived for the moment. I planned for the future. Everything changed when our father was diagnosed with aggressive pancreatic cancer. I was 15, Amanda 18. Dad fought hard for 11 months, but the disease took him anyway. His loss devastated our family. But he had been practical enough to leave us with a substantial life insurance policy. Mom received the largest portion, but Dad had specifically set aside $100,000 each for Amanda and me in trusts we could access when we turned 21. The contrast in how we handled this inheritance defined our adult relationship. I used mine to finish my computer science degree at the University of Washington debt-free, put a down payment on a modest condo, and invest the rest. By 30, I had grown that inheritance into a healthy portfolio that would have made Dad proud. Amanda took a different path. Within 18 months of receiving her trust fund, it was gone. Expensive clothes, a luxury car she could not afford to maintain, lavish vacations with friends who disappeared when the money ran out, and increasingly gambling. What started as occasional trips to casinos turned into an addiction that consumed her finances and relationships. The first time she asked to borrow money, it was for rent. She was 23, tearfully explaining that her roommate had moved out unexpectedly, leaving her unable to cover the full amount. I transferred $1,000 without hesitation, remembering how she had always protected me. She promised to pay me back in 2 months. Those 2 months stretched into 6, then a year, and eventually we both pretended the loan had never happened. This pattern repeated with increasing frequency and growing amounts. Car repairs, medical bills, utilities about to be shut off. Each time there was a plausible explanation, a desperate need, and promises of repayment that never materialized. And each time our mother would say, "She is going through a rough patch. She is your sister." Family helps family. By the time I was 28 and Amanda 31, I had loaned her over $20,000 that I would never see again. The breaking point should have been when she asked for $6,000 to pay off what she described as "some guys who will hurt me if I do not pay." I learned later it was a gambling debt to an underground poker game. I paid it, then insisted she attend Gamblers Anonymous meetings. She went twice before declaring it depressing and not for her. Despite my financial support, Amanda's life continued to spiral. She had a son at 25 with a boyfriend who left before the birth. 2 years later, she had a daughter with another man who stayed slightly longer, but eventually disappeared as well. My niece and nephew became the new justification for emergency financial requests. The kids need winter clothes. Mason needs asthma medication. Lily has a school trip coming up. I loved those kids fiercely and worried about their stability. This concern kept me engaged when logic told me to step back. I found Mason a spot in a good after-school program and paid for it directly. I set up a college fund for Lily when she was born, making sure Amanda could not access it. I tried to provide structure where I could without undermining my sister. Mom continued to enable Amanda watching the children whenever asked, giving Amanda money she could barely afford to give, and most damagingly making excuses for increasingly irresponsible behavior. When Amanda lost jobs for showing up late or not at all, Mom would say, "That manager had it out for her from day one." When Amanda maxed out credit cards Mom had co-signed for, Mom would say, "Everyone struggles with credit these days." My attempts to help Amanda find stable employment leveraged all my professional connections. I got her an interview at a friend's marketing firm, which she missed because she overslept. I helped her create a resume that strategically explained her work history gaps, then discovered she had added fictional jobs to it before submitting. I paid for a vocational course in medical billing that she abandoned halfway through. The most significant intervention came when Amanda totaled her car while driving under the influence with the children in the back seat. By some miracle, no one was hurt, but she faced potential charges and the loss of her license. I hired an attorney who managed to get her into a diversion program instead of jail time. The legal fees cost me $11,000, but I considered it an investment in my niece and nephew's well-being. They needed their mother, flawed as she was. After this incident, Amanda seemed genuinely shaken. She attended sobriety meetings for 3 months, found part-time work at a local daycare center where she could bring Lily for free, and stopped asking for money. For almost a year, I dared to hope she had turned a corner. I should have known better. The timing could not have been worse when Amanda called me that Tuesday evening in April. I had just finished a video call where I had accepted a promotion to senior software architect, a position I had been working toward for 2 years. My girlfriend Rachel and I had just closed on our first house together after dating for 3 years, a beautiful 3-bedroom craftsman with a yard for the dog we planned to adopt. Most significantly, I had been saving for 6 months to buy Rachel an engagement ring, setting aside money from each paycheck for the 2-carat emerald-cut diamond she had once admired in a jewelry store window. My phone rang just as Rachel and I were discussing paint colors for the living room. Seeing Amanda's name on the screen, I felt the familiar mix of love and wariness that her calls always triggered. "Garrett, I would not ask if it was not an emergency." Her voice sounded thick with tears. "The refrigerator is completely empty. Mason and Lily have not had a proper meal in 2 days. I have been feeding them peanut butter sandwiches and the last of the cereal. My paycheck does not come until Friday, and the child support is late again." I pinched the bridge of my nose, already knowing where this conversation was headed. "How much do you need this time, Amanda?" "That is the thing," she said, her voice brightening slightly. "I do not need you to give me money. I just need to borrow your credit card to buy groceries. Just basics to get us through until Friday. Then I will pay you back immediately." Rachel, overhearing my side of the conversation, gave me a warning look. We had discussed setting firmer boundaries with Amanda, especially now that we were building a life together. I covered the phone and whispered, "Her kids need food." Rachel whispered back, "She always has a story, Garrett. Remember Christmas when she needed money for gifts, and then posted pictures from a casino on Instagram the next day." She was right, of course. Amanda had a gift for making each crisis sound unique and unavoidable, when they were actually variations on the same self-created catastrophe. But I could not stop thinking about Mason and Lily. My 10-year-old nephew had inherited my love for mathematics and building things. My 8-year-old niece was artistic and sensitive, always drawing pictures that she would proudly present to me. The thought of them going hungry while I sat in my new house discussing paint swatches made my chest tight with guilt. "Let me think about it," I told Amanda. "Can we meet tomorrow to talk?" "The kids are hungry now, Garrett." She pushed, her voice cracking. "I would not ask if I had any other option. Mom is tapped out this month with her medical bills. I tried applying for emergency assistance, but the appointment is not for another week. Please, just this once." I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop near her apartment the next morning. Rachel was not happy about it. As we got ready for bed that night, she expressed her concerns clearly. "I love how much you care about those kids," she said, sitting on the edge of our bed. "It is one of the reasons I fell in love with you. But Amanda takes advantage of that. She knows exactly which buttons to push." What am I supposed to do? I asked, genuinely conflicted. Let the kids go hungry because their mother is irresponsible. You could buy the groceries yourself and take them over, or order delivery directly to their house, or give gift cards specifically for the grocery store. There are ways to help those kids without handing Amanda unrestricted access to your credit card. Her suggestions were sensible, but they also required confronting Amanda's deception directly. Despite everything, I still struggled with seeing my sister as someone I needed to guard against. Part of me still saw the fierce girl who had protected me on that playground. When I met Amanda at the coffee shop the next morning, I was struck by how tired she looked. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her clothes looked slept in. She had always been naturally pretty, but stress and hard living were taking their toll. At 35, she looked a decade older. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, clutching her coffee cup with both hands. "I know you probably think I am a complete disaster. I do not think that I said automatically, though part of me did. The thing is, I have been doing better. I really have. I have been clean from gambling for 2 months now. I have not missed a day of work. But the bills just keep piling up from before, and with the kids growing so fast, they constantly need new clothes and school supplies." She paused, looking down. Mason had a growth spurt and none of his pants fit anymore. That is why I had to use the grocery money for clothes this month. I thought I could stretch what food we had, but it ran out faster than I expected. Her explanation sounded reasonable. Kids did grow quickly at that age, and 2 months without gambling would be the longest stretch of sobriety she had managed in years if it was true. "I am really proud of you for staying away from gambling," I said cautiously. "That is a big step." Her face brightened. "It has been hard, but I am determined this time. For the kids, they deserve better than what they have gotten so far." We talked for another 30 minutes, with Amanda outlining her plan to get caught up financially once her tax refund arrived. She seemed more organized and focused than I had seen her in years. By the end of our conversation, I had convinced myself that perhaps this really was a turning point. "So about the groceries," she said finally. "I promise I will only use the card for food, maybe $200 worth tops, and I will pay you back on Friday when my check comes in." Against every rational instinct, I removed my credit card from my wallet and handed it to her. "I need it back tomorrow," I said firmly. "And Amanda, I mean it. Only groceries." "Of course," she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "You are the best brother in the world, Garrett. I do not know what I would do without you." As she slipped my card into her purse, a flicker of doubt crossed my mind. But I pushed it aside, telling myself that even if she broke her promise, how much damage could she really do in one day? The series of text notifications began at 3:14 in the morning. Half asleep, I registered the buzzing of my phone on the nightstand but ignored it, assuming it was some system alert from work. When my alarm went off at 6:30, I had 17 unread messages from my credit card company. Purchase $89.99 at Electronics Paradise Purchase. $212.47 at Westfield Grocery Purchase. $495 at Casino Royal Online Cash Advance 5. $100 at ATM. Wells Fargo Northgate Purchase. $876.32 at Nordstrom Cash. Advance $500 at ATM. Bank of America Downtown Purchase. $1,200 at Casino Royal. Online Purchase. $428.75 at Liquor Warehouse Cash Advance. $500 at ATM Chase Riverview. Purchase $2,000 at Casino Royal Online Purchase. $312.89 at Best Buy Cash Advance. $500 at ATM Wells Fargo Northgate Purchase. $299.99 at Electronics Paradise Purchase. $245.78 at Designer Shoes Purchase. $538.90 at Casino Royal Online. The total, including fees for the cash advances, came to $8,700.14. My credit limit was $10,000. I stared at my phone in disbelief, my mind refusing to process what I was seeing. This had to be fraud. Someone must have cloned my card. But as the fog of sleep cleared, the sickening reality set in. The only person who had my card was Amanda. "What is wrong?" Rachel asked, rousing beside me, alarmed by my expression. "Amanda," I managed to say, passing her my phone. Rachel scanned the messages, her face hardening. "Call the credit card company right now. Report it as fraud." But I gave her the card, I said, already dialing the number on the back of my backup card. After navigating the automated system and verifying my identity, I explained the situation to the customer service representative. Her response was what I feared. "I understand this is distressing, Mr. Turner, but since you voluntarily gave your card to your sister, this does not qualify as unauthorized use under our fraud protection policy. You are responsible for all charges made with your permission." "But I only gave permission for grocery shopping, not for thousands of dollars in gambling and cash advances," I argued. "I am sorry, sir, but without evidence that the card was taken without consent or used after you reported it missing, these charges are valid. You may want to pursue this as a civil matter with your sister, but the bank cannot reverse these transactions." By the time I hung up, Rachel was already dressed. "I am going with you to find her," she said, her voice leaving no room for argument. We drove to Amanda's apartment complex, a run-down collection of two-story buildings on the outskirts of the city. No one answered when we knocked on her door. A neighbor walking her dog informed us that Amanda had left with a suitcase the previous evening, the children in tow. "Where would she take the kids?" Rachel asked as we got back in the car. "Probably to Mom's," I replied, already calling my mother's number. Mom answered on the fourth ring, her voice deliberately casual. "Garrett, what a nice surprise to hear from you so early." "Is Amanda there?" I asked, cutting to the chase. A pause. "Yes, she and the kids stayed over last night. They are still sleeping. Mom, she stole $8,700 from me. She maxed out my credit card after I lent it to her for groceries." Another longer pause. "Well, I would not call it stealing exactly. She is going through a really difficult time right now." My grip tightened on the steering wheel as I put the phone on speaker. "Mom, she spent over $2,000 on online gambling. She took out cash advances. She bought electronics and designer clothes. This was not a misunderstanding. She has a problem, Garrett. She needs help, not judgment. You have always been so blessed with financial stability. Is this amount really going to ruin you?" I could not believe what I was hearing. "That is not the point, Mom. She lied to me. She stole from me. And now you are defending her." "I am not defending what she did," Mom replied, though her tone suggested otherwise. "But she is terrified right now. She owes some very dangerous people money. This gambling thing, it is an illness. You cannot just expect her to control it." "Where did she go?" I demanded. "I know she is not still at your house." Mom sighed. "She left about an hour ago. She said she needed to handle some business. The kids are still here." "What kind of business?" "Where did she go?" "I do not know, Garrett." She did not say. But she was very upset. "So am I nearly shouted. "She emptied my savings, Mom. The money I was going to use for Rachel's engagement ring is gone." "Oh, Mom," said softly, finally seeming to grasp the gravity of the situation. "I did not realize. I need to talk to her. Tell her to call me when she comes back for the kids." "Garrett," Mom said, her voice turning pleading, "try not to be too harsh with her. She knows she made a mistake. But she is still your sister, and she needs your compassion, not your anger." After hanging up, I sat in silence, the car idling in the parking lot of Amanda's apartment complex. Rachel placed her hand on mine. "What do you want to do?" she asked gently. "I do not know," I admitted. "I cannot afford to write off this much money. But what options do I have? She obviously does not have it to pay back. If I report her to the police, she could go to jail. What happens to Mason and Lily then?" "This is not just about the money," Rachel said. "This is about Amanda facing consequences for once in her life. Your mom enables her. You enable her. Nothing changes because nothing ever has to change for her. She was right, and I knew it. But knowing what needed to happen and being the one to make it happen were two very different things." We spent the rest of the day trying to locate Amanda. I called friends she might be staying with, checked. Her usual haunts, even drove by the local casinos. No sign of her. My calls went straight to voicemail. Text messages showed as delivered, but unread. By evening, I was exhausted and no closer to a resolution. Rachel and I returned to our new home, which now felt tainted by this betrayal. The excitement of our fresh start had been replaced with financial anxiety and family drama. "What about the kids?" Rachel asked as we picked at takeout neither of us had the appetite for. "Mom says they are fine for now. They have stayed with her plenty of times before." I pushed my food away and leaned back in my chair. I just cannot believe she would do this to me, after everything I have done for her. "Maybe that is exactly why she did it," Rachel observed. "Because you have always been there to clean up her messes. Why would this time be any different?" The truth in her words stung. I had spent so many years trying to save Amanda from herself that I had become part of the problem. My help had become a crutch she leaned on rather than an opportunity to stand on her own. That night, as Rachel slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling, replaying years of enabling behavior. The money was significant, yes, but more painful was the realization that my sister had looked me in the eye, made a promise she never intended to keep, and betrayed my trust without hesitation, and somewhere deep down I had known she would. The $8,700 represented more than just money. For 6 months I had been setting aside a portion of each paycheck for the perfect engagement ring. Rachel had once pointed out a 2-carat emerald-cut diamond set in platinum. While we were window shopping, her eyes lingering just a moment too long. I had noted the style and started saving immediately, wanting to give her something special that represented all she meant to me. Now that dream had vanished overnight. While we had discussed marriage extensively and knew we wanted to build a life together, the formal proposal and beautiful ring were important symbols to me. I had even planned how I would ask during our upcoming vacation to the Oregon coast at sunset on the beach where we had first said "I love you." The morning after discovering the theft, I sat Rachel down at our kitchen table. "I need to talk to you about the engagement ring," I began, my throat tight. "Garrett, it is okay," she interrupted, reaching for my hand. "I know what that money was for. Amanda took that from both of us." "I had it all planned," I admitted. "The proposal, the ring, everything. Now I do not know when I will be able to replace that savings." "A ring is just a thing," Rachel said, though I could see the disappointment she was trying to hide. "We can still get engaged. I would say yes to a twist tie if you were the one offering it." Her generosity only made me feel worse. Rachel deserved everything I had planned to give her, not a compromised version, forced by my sister's selfishness. Beyond the ring, the financial strain touched every aspect of our lives. Our new mortgage payment was manageable with our combined incomes, but now I faced a maxed-out credit card that would accrue significant interest if not paid quickly. The minimum payment alone would stretch our monthly budget. I had always prided myself on financial responsibility. I paid my credit card in full each month, had an excellent credit score, and maintained a 6-month emergency fund. That emergency fund would now need to be drained to cover this unexpected debt, leaving us vulnerable if any actual emergency arose. At work, I struggled to focus. My promotion came with new responsibilities that demanded clear thinking and creative problem-solving. Instead, I found myself staring at my monitor, running calculations of how long it would take to rebuild our savings, or checking my phone to see if Amanda had finally responded to my messages. My team noticed the change. My manager pulled me aside after I missed an important deadline for the first time in my career. "Everything okay, Garrett? This is not like you." I gave a vague explanation about family issues, embarrassed to admit the truth. He was understanding, but reminded me that the senior position came with higher expectations. I promised to get back on track, then spent my lunch break calling local pawn shops to see if Amanda had sold any electronics matching the ones she had purchased with my card. Sleep became elusive. I would lie awake analyzing where I had gone wrong, replaying the coffee shop conversation where I had handed over my card despite all the warning signs. During the day, fatigue made everything harder, from coding complex algorithms to maintaining patience with daily annoyances. Rachel remained supportive, but increasingly concerned. One evening, about a week after the incident, she broached the subject that had been hanging between us. "Have you considered filing a police report?" she asked carefully. The question sent a wave of conflicting emotions through me. Part of me wanted justice, wanted Amanda to face real consequences for once. Another part recoiled at the thought of my sister in handcuffs, of being responsible for putting her in the system. "I have thought about it," I admitted, But what happens to Mason and Lily if she goes to jail? They end up in foster care, or with Mom, who can barely manage her own life, let alone 2 kids. Those children are already suffering because of her choices, Rachel pointed out. Maybe this is the wake-up call she needs. Rock bottom can be the foundation for rebuilding. Or it could push her deeper into desperation, I countered. You know how these cycles work. Desperation leads to worse decisions, not better ones. We went back and forth, neither of us changing position, both of us frustrated by the impossible situation. By the end of the conversation, we had tabled the decision, but were left with a subtle tension between us that had never existed before. The strain extended beyond Rachel to other relationships. Friends invited us out for dinner or drinks, and I had to decline, unable to justify the expense. When asked why I gave vague excuses rather than admit the humiliating truth, gradually social invitations became less frequent. Even my relationship with my mother deteriorated. She continued to serve as a communication channel between Amanda and me, relaying messages that always included excuses, but never apologies or concrete plans for repayment. After 2 weeks of this, I finally snapped during a phone call. Stop defending her, Mom. Just stop. She is 35 years old, not 15. She made choices, horrible, selfish choices that hurt people who love her. Why can you not see that? Of course I see it, Mom replied, her voice thin with stress. I see all of it. I see Amanda struggling with demons your father had too, that gambling addiction that ruined so many of our early years together before he got help. I see you so much like me, always trying to fix everything, taking on responsibility that is not yours. I see those beautiful children caught in the middle. Her words stopped me cold. What do you mean demons Dad had too? A heavy sigh came through the phone. Your father had a gambling problem when we first married. It nearly destroyed us. He got help, eventually joined Gamblers. Anonymous stayed clean for over 20 years. But these things can run in families, Garrett. Amanda did not choose this addiction. She chose to lie to me. She chose to take my card and spend thousands on luxury items and cash advances, not just gambling. When you are in the grip of addiction, your choices are not really choices, Mom insisted. You will understand someday when you have children. You cannot just cut them off when they make mistakes, even terrible ones. There is a difference between cutting someone off and setting healthy boundaries, I said, repeating a phrase my therapist had used years ago when I first sought help dealing with Amanda's behavior patterns. Boundaries, Mom scoffed. Family does not work that way, Garrett. Family forgives. Family sacrifices. Family stands by each other no matter what. The conversation ended in a stalemate, with both of us frustrated and hurt. But it revealed something important. The dysfunctional patterns in our family went back further than I had realized, and my mother's enabling behavior toward Amanda mirrored her own experience with my father. As days stretched into weeks with no resolution, I began to notice subtle changes in myself. The constant anxiety about money made me irritable. Small disagreements with Rachel escalated quickly as my fuse shortened. I tracked our spending, obsessively scrutinizing even minor purchases. Most disturbing was the growing resentment I felt, not just toward Amanda but toward my niece and nephew. Logically, I knew they were innocent victims in this situation, but emotionally I began to view them as extensions of their mother's manipulation. This realization horrified me and became the catalyst that finally pushed me to seek a solution, any solution to break free from this toxic cycle. 3 weeks after the credit card incident, I was scrolling through social media before bed when a notification appeared. Amanda had just posted for the first time since emptying my credit card. It was a check-in at a restaurant I recognized, an upscale sushi place downtown. The timestamp showed it had been posted 10 minutes earlier. She is out having sushi, I said to Rachel, my voice flat with disbelief. $8,700 of my money is gone. I cannot reach her for weeks. And she is posting about spicy tuna rolls on Instagram. Rachel took my phone and looked at the post. The caption says, "Treating myself after a hard few weeks. Self-care is important." Is she serious right now? Something inside me shifted. The last thread of familial loyalty of making excuses for Amanda's behavior finally snapped. I took back my phone and called my mother. "Where is Amanda staying?" I demanded without preamble. "Garrett, it is nearly midnight. Can this wait until morning? She just posted from Osaka Sushi downtown, treating herself after a hard few weeks. So clearly she is not hiding from dangerous loan sharks or whatever story she told you. Where is she staying, Mom? A long pause. She has been staying with her friend Tina since last week. But Garrett, she is still figuring things out. She does not have the money to pay you back yet. Address, Mom. I need Tina's address. I do not think confronting her when you are this angry is a good idea. I am not going to confront her tonight. I just need to know where she is. Mom reluctantly gave me the address, making me promise not to go there until I had calmed down. I agreed, though my plans were already forming. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and logged into my banking portal. Years ago, when Amanda had been going through her divorce, I had helped her set up new bank accounts. She had been worried her ex would drain their joint accounts, so I had walked her through the process of establishing accounts in her name only. What she did not know was that I had kept the login information initially as a backup in case she got locked out, but later as a way to verify her financial claims when she asked for money. I had not checked her accounts in over a year, feeling it was an invasion of privacy. Now I felt no such compunction. After logging in, what I saw shocked me even more than the credit card theft. Amanda had a savings account with over $12,000 in it. How is this possible? Rachel asked, looking over my shoulder. She told you she was broke, that the kids did not have food. I navigated to the transaction history. Regular deposits had been made over the past 6 months, including a substantial one 3 days after she had taken my credit card. The source was labeled Estate of Michael Turner. Dad's insurance money, I said quietly. She must have hidden some of it from everyone. This discovery changed everything. Not only had Amanda lied about needing my credit card for necessities, but she had significant savings the entire time. The betrayal cut even deeper. The next morning I called a lawyer friend who specialized in financial disputes. I explained the situation, including my access to Amanda's bank records. Technically, accessing her account without permission could be problematic, he advised. But given that she authorized you initially, it falls into a gray area. The more pressing issue is recovering your money. Do you have any documentation of the agreement when you lent her your card? Nothing written, I admitted. It was a verbal agreement that she would only use it for groceries and return it the next day. That makes things harder to prove, but not impossible. You have the card transaction records showing it was clearly not used just for groceries. Your best options are file a police report for credit card fraud, which could result in criminal charges. File a civil lawsuit for the amount taken, or attempt to negotiate repayment directly. What if I just transferred the money from her account to mine, I asked. The same amount she took from me. He paused. That would be legally questionable. Since you are not an authorized user on her current account despite having access, it could be considered unauthorized access and electronic theft. I would not recommend that approach. After hanging up, I sat at my kitchen table, weighing my options. Filing criminal charges would devastate Amanda's already precarious life situation and potentially hurt Mason and Lily. A civil lawsuit would be expensive, time-consuming, and might still not result in repayment. As I considered the third option, direct negotiation, an idea began to form. Amanda had shown she could not be trusted to honor agreements. Any repayment plan would likely fall apart at the first opportunity. But I had leverage now that I knew about her secret savings. I spent the rest of the day researching banking regulations and laws regarding disputed transactions. What I discovered was that while accessing someone else's account without permission was generally illegal, there were exceptions for cases of proven fraud, and when the person had previously granted access authorization. More importantly, I found that if I could prove Amanda had defrauded me and had the means to repay but refused, I might have grounds for an emergency recovery action. It was still legally risky, but less so than I had initially feared. That evening, I composed a detailed email to Amanda, sending it to every address I had for her. I outlined exactly what she had done, attached the credit card statements showing all purchases, and made it clear that I knew about her secret savings account. I gave her 24 hours to either return my card and transfer $8,700 to my account, or I would pursue all legal options available to me, including filing fraud charges and seeking an emergency asset freeze on her accounts. Do you think she will respond? Rachel asked after reading the email. I doubt it, I replied. But now I have documentation that I attempted to resolve this directly before taking other measures. The 24 hours passed with no response from Amanda. My mother called upset that I had threatened legal action, but I remained firm. This is between Amanda and me now, Mom. I have given her a reasonable opportunity to make this right. Having received no response by the deadline, I made my decision. While technically risky, I believed I had sufficient justification to recover exactly what was taken from me. I would not take a penny more than the $8,700 that had been stolen, and I would document everything carefully to show this was recovery of fraudulently obtained funds, not theft. Late that night, after Rachel had gone to bed, I sat down at my computer and logged into Amanda's account one last time. I set up a transfer for exactly $8,700 to my checking account, labeled it Repayment of Fraudulent Credit Card Charges, and included a note with the dates and transaction numbers from my credit card. Statement. Before confirming the transfer, I paused, considering the potential consequences. This action would likely end any chance of reconciliation with my sister. It might create a permanent rift in our family, but allowing her to steal from me without consequences would only enable further destructive behavior, hurting not just me, but eventually Mason and Lily as well. I clicked confirm. The transfer was scheduled to process at 2 in the morning, the standard time for the bank's overnight batch processing. I added a final note to the transaction details. Amanda, I gave you every opportunity to make this right. This money was taken from me through deception and used for gambling and luxury purchases while you claimed your children were hungry. I am only reclaiming what was wrongfully taken. If you want to discuss this like adults, you have my number. With that done, I closed my laptop and went to bed feeling a strange mixture of anxiety and relief. Whatever happened next, I had finally taken action to break the cycle of enabling that had defined our relationship for too long. At exactly 2 in the morning, the transfer from Amanda's account to mine was processed. I knew this because I was still awake, too anxious to sleep, repeatedly refreshing my banking app until I saw the deposit appear. $8,700. The exact amount she had taken from me. I had expected to feel triumphant, or at least relieved. Instead, I felt a complicated mix of emotions. Vindication, yes, but also sadness that our relationship had deteriorated to this point, and anxiety about the inevitable fallout. I finally drifted off to sleep around 3, mentally preparing for the storm that would come. The storm arrived at 6:02 in the morning, just as the first light of dawn was filtering through our bedroom curtains. My phone erupted with Amanda's ringtone, startling both Rachel and me awake. You stole from me. Amanda screamed so loudly, I had to hold the phone away from my ear. How could you do this? I just checked my account and the money is gone. I did not steal from you, Amanda, I replied, keeping my voice deliberately calm. I recovered the exact amount you took from me after lying about needing groceries for your children. That was my money, she shrieked. I was going to pay you back. Now I cannot pay my rent. The kids and I will be homeless. Is that what you want? You had 3 weeks to contact me about repayment. Instead, you ignored my calls and messages while posting about sushi dinners on social media. And we both know the kids have been staying with Mom more than with you lately. I am calling the police, she threatened. This is theft. You hacked my account. Go ahead, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice remained. I have documented everything. The credit card statements showing you spent thousands on gambling and luxury items after promising to only buy groceries. The bank records showing you have had money all along while claiming poverty. The multiple attempts I made to contact you about repayment. I am happy to explain it all to the police. There was a moment of silence before Amanda changed tactics, her voice breaking into sobs. How could you do this to me, Garrett? I am your sister. I have always been there for you. No, Amanda, you have not. You have been taking from me for years without giving anything back. I have paid your rent, your legal fees, your gambling debts. I have bought clothes and medicine for your children while you spent money on yourself. I have tried to help you find jobs and get treatment for your addiction. And how did you repay me? By lying to my face and stealing thousands of dollars that I was saving for an engagement ring. An engagement ring, she repeated momentarily, derailed from her outrage. For Rachel. Yes, for Rachel. $8,700 I had been saving for months gone in a single night because you could not control your gambling addiction for even 24 hours. Another pause. I could almost hear her recalculating her approach. Garrett, I am sick. You know gambling addiction is a disease. Would you punish someone for having cancer? For having depression? No, but I would expect them to seek treatment and not use their illness as an excuse to hurt others. You have refused help every time it has been offered. You chose to lie to me, Amanda. You chose to take my card under false pretenses. You chose to spend thousands at online casinos instead of feeding your children. Just then, my phone beeped with another incoming call. My mother. Mom is calling me now, I told Amanda. I am guessing you woke up the entire neighborhood with your screaming and called her immediately. Of course I called her. Someone in this family needs to have a heart. I switched to the other call. Hello, Mom. Garrett. Michael Turner. What have you done? My mother's voice was tight with anger. Amanda just called me hysterical, saying you hacked her bank account and stole all her money. Not all her money, Mom. Just the exact amount she stole from me 3 weeks ago, and I did not hack anything. She gave me access to that account years ago when I helped her set it up. That does not give you the right to take money from her account. She was going to pay you back when she could. Was she? Did she tell you about the $12,000 she has been hiding in a savings account while claiming she could not afford to feed her children? Did she mention that she spent my money on online gambling and designer clothes? Not groceries. Mom faltered. She said she needed that money for rent and bills. She has been lying to both of us, Mom. For years. And we have both enabled it by believing her stories and bailing her out of every self-created crisis. The conversation with my mother continued for nearly 30 minutes, covering ground we had been over countless times before. But something was different this time. As I calmly presented the evidence of Amanda's deception, I could hear my mother's certainty wavering. I just want what is best for both my children, she said finally, her voice tired. I know you do, Mom. But protecting Amanda from consequences is not what is best for her. It never has been. After hanging up with my mother, I received a barrage of text messages from Amanda, alternating between threats, pleas, and guilt trips. I am going to sue you for every penny you have. Please, Garrett, I need that money for rent. I will be evicted. After everything I did for you, growing up, how could you betray me like this? The kids will suffer because of what you did. Is that what you want? I responded to none of them, following the advice of both my lawyer friend and Rachel to avoid creating any written record that could be misinterpreted or manipulated. By mid-morning, the situation had escalated further. Amanda had apparently called several family members and friends, telling them a distorted version of events where I had maliciously hacked her account and stolen money she needed for essential expenses. My phone filled with messages from relatives expressing disappointment or asking for my side of the story. Most painful was a call from my cousin Michael, who had always been like a brother to me. Man, what is going on? Amanda says. You cleaned out her bank account. That does not sound like you. I explained the full situation, including the original theft and Amanda's secret savings. That makes more sense, Michael said. Look, we all know Amanda has issues. No one believes you would just take her money for no reason. But maybe there was another way to handle it. I tried other ways, I told him. I tried calling her. I tried emails. I gave her a chance to work it out like adults. She ignored me until the money was gone. Then suddenly she had time to call everyone we know. Michael was silent for a moment. Fair enough. For what it is worth, I think you did what you had to do. Amanda has been skating by on family sympathy for too long. His support meant more than I could express. As the day progressed, a pattern emerged. Those who knew Amanda well and had experienced her manipulation firsthand generally understood my actions, while those who only saw her charming public persona were shocked by what they viewed as my betrayal. By afternoon, Amanda had changed tactics again. She appeared at our house unannounced, pounding on the door while Rachel and I were both working from home. I know you are in there, Garrett. We need to talk face to face. Be a man and open the door. Through the security camera, I could see she was alone, her face blotchy from crying, her hair disheveled. I opened the door but blocked the entrance. "You need to calm down," I said firmly. "I am not discussing anything with you while you are like this." "Like what?" "Upset that my brother stabbed me in the back. Worried about how I am going to pay rent. Scared about what happens to my kids. The same kids you claimed were hungry while you had thousands in savings. The same kids you left with Mom so you could go gambling with my money. Those kids." Her face crumpled. For a moment I saw genuine pain and shame in her expression, but it quickly hardened back into defensive anger. "You have no idea what my life is like," she said. "How hard it is to be a single mother, with no support from their fathers. How expensive everything is. The pressure I am under all the time." "You are right," I conceded. "I do not know exactly what that is like, but I do know that lying and stealing from the people who love you is not the answer." "So what am I supposed to do now? My rent is due in 3 days. I do not have enough money left." "That is not my problem anymore, Amanda. You had the money. You chose to hide it while asking me for more. Now you need to figure it out on your own, or what you will let your niece and nephew be homeless." I had anticipated this manipulation tactic. Mason and Lily always have a place to stay with Mom or with me and Rachel if needed, but you need to stop using them as shields and bargaining chips. It is not fair to them. Our confrontation continued for nearly an hour, moving from the doorstep to the living room when it became clear the neighbors were watching. Rachel stayed nearby, a silent support, but allowing me to handle the situation. Eventually, Amanda's anger gave way to exhaustion. "So what happens now?" she asked, slumped on our couch. "Are we just done as brother and sister? Over money?" "This was never just about money," I told her. "It is about trust and respect. You betrayed my trust in the worst way, Amanda. After years of me trying to help you, that is not something I can just forget. So that is it. You got your money back, and now you are washing your hands of me." "I did not say that. But things cannot go back to how they were before. If you want a relationship with me moving forward, it needs to be built on honesty and respect. That starts with you getting real help for your gambling addiction and taking responsibility for your choices." She left without making any promises, but also without the dramatic threats and accusations that had characterized the beginning of our conversation. It felt like perhaps, just perhaps, something had shifted. The aftermath continued to ripple through our family for weeks. My mother vacillated between anger at my methods and grudging acknowledgement that Amanda's behavior had been indefensible. Some relatives took sides while others tried to mediate. Throughout it all, Rachel remained my steadfast supporter, even when the stress spilled over into our relationship. "Are you having second thoughts about marrying into this family drama?" I asked her one night, only half joking. "Not even for a second," she replied, curling against me on the couch. "I am proud of you for finally standing up for yourself. It was long overdue." The most unexpected outcome came about a month after the confrontation. Amanda texted me, asking to meet for coffee alone. Against Rachel's concerned advice, I agreed. When I arrived at the coffee shop, Amanda was already there, looking more put together than she had in months. Her hair was neatly styled, her clothes simple but clean, and most noticeably her eyes were clear and present in a way they had not been during the depths of her gambling addiction. "Thank you for coming," she said, no trace of hostility in her voice. "I was not sure you would." "I almost did not," I admitted, "but we are still family." She nodded, taking a deep breath. "I joined Gamblers Anonymous. For real this time. 2 meetings a week, plus a therapist who specializes in addiction. I have been clean for 22 days. I was surprised but cautious. "That is great, Amanda. Truly. What made you decide to go now?" She looked down at her coffee. "After everything that happened, it was like finally seeing myself through other people's eyes. Mom stopped making excuses for me. Michael and Aunt Susan sat me down for a really painful conversation. And you." She paused, meeting my eyes. "You were the first person who ever made me face real consequences. It was like a slap in the face, but one I needed." I did not know what to say. After years of trying to help her through support and second chances, Could it really be the tough love approach that finally made a difference? "I am not asking for anything," she continued. "Not money, not forgiveness, nothing. I just wanted you to know that I am trying to change. For real this time. For the kids, but also for me." As our conversation continued, I maintained my guard, having been disappointed too many times before. But there was something different about Amanda this time, a humility and self-awareness I had never seen before. Before we parted, she handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $200 and a handwritten note, first installment. "I will pay back every penny, even if it takes years. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to." It was a small step, but perhaps the beginning of a new chapter for our family. 6 months passed, bringing changes none of us could have predicted the day I discovered $8,700 missing from my account. The seasons shifted from spring to summer, and then to fall, and with them our family dynamics evolved as well. Amanda maintained her commitment to recovery, marking 183 days of freedom from gambling. The journey was not without setbacks. There were missed meetings when childcare fell through one tearful late-night call, when she confessed to browsing an online casino site before closing it without playing, and countless moments of frustration as she faced the financial wreckage her addiction had created. But unlike previous attempts at change, this time she did not abandon the process when it became difficult. She found a sponsor through Gamblers Anonymous, a woman named Diane who had lost her home and marriage to the same addiction before rebuilding her life. With Diane's guidance, Amanda worked through the 12 steps with genuine effort. Most significantly, Amanda had begun making regular, if small, payments toward what she owed me. Sometimes it was just $50, other times $200, when she picked up extra shifts at the restaurant where she now worked as a server. Each payment came with a note updating me on her recovery and the kids. I kept every note in a drawer, a tangible record of her commitment to change. My relationship with my mother evolved as well. The rift caused by my confrontation with Amanda gradually healed as Mom came to recognize how her enabling had contributed to the problem. She attended Al-Anon meetings for families of addicts, where she connected with other parents struggling with the difficult balance between supporting and enabling their adult children. One Sunday afternoon, Mom invited Rachel and me over for dinner, something that had been uncommon in the tense months following the incident. As we sat on her patio after the meal, she brought up the subject we had all been carefully avoiding. "I owe you an apology, Garrett," she said, setting down her iced tea. "For years I made excuses for Amanda's behavior and expected you to do the same. I convinced myself it was what a loving mother would do, but I was wrong. I was not helping her. I was making it easier for her to avoid facing her problems. You were trying to protect her," I offered, seeing the pain in my mother's eyes. "Just like you always protected both of us growing up." "There is a difference between protection and enabling," she replied, echoing the very words I had tried to explain to her months before. "I am learning that difference now. Better late than never, I suppose." My relationship with Rachel strengthened through the ordeal. The engagement ring I eventually purchased was smaller than originally planned, but the proposal on the Oregon coast was everything I had hoped for. Her tearful yes and the joy we shared in that moment were untainted by the family drama that had preceded it. As for Mason and Lily, my relationship with them underwent its own healing process. In the immediate aftermath of the confrontation with Amanda, I had pulled back, associating them with their mother's manipulation. It was not fair to them, and the realization of my emotional withdrawal had been a painful mirror of my own flaws. I made a conscious effort to rebuild those connections, establishing a regular schedule of spending time with them separate from Amanda. One Saturday a month became Uncle Garrett Day, where I would take them on outings to museums, parks, or special events. Rachel often joined us, developing her own bond with the children who would soon become her niece and nephew by marriage. Through it all, I reflected deeply on the lessons this painful chapter had taught me. The most profound was understanding the true meaning of helping someone you love. For years, I had mistaken financial bailouts and emotional buffering for genuine support. In reality, these actions had only postponed the inevitable confrontation Amanda needed to have with her addiction. True help sometimes meant allowing someone to face the natural consequences of their actions. It meant standing firm in the face of manipulation and guilt trips. It meant recognizing that love and enablement are not the same thing, and in fact are often opposing forces. I also learned about the importance of healthy boundaries. Growing up in a family where family always comes first was an unquestioned mantra. I had never developed the skills to say no to toxic requests or to protect my own well-being when it conflicted with others' demands. Learning to establish and maintain boundaries was uncomfortable at first, then liberating. The journey of recovery was not just Amanda's. It belonged to our entire family. Each of us had patterns to break, new skills to learn, and old wounds to heal. The process was messy and non-linear, with progress followed by setbacks followed by new growth. On a crisp October evening, almost exactly 6 months after the confrontation that changed everything, Amanda invited Rachel and me to dinner at her apartment. It was a simple meal, spaghetti and salad prepared with the help of Mason and Lily. But it represented something profound. Amanda taking responsibility not just for herself, but for creating positive family experiences for her children. After dinner, when the kids were occupied with a movie in the living room, Amanda handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $1,000, by far the largest repayment she had made. "I got a promotion at work," she explained. "Assistant manager. The first real career step I have taken in years." "Amanda, that is amazing," I said, genuinely proud of her progress. "But are you sure you can afford this much at once? You and the kids need stability too." She shook her head. "I need to do this, Garrett. Not just for you, but for me. Each payment is a reminder of where I have been and where I never want to return. It is part of my recovery." As Rachel and I drove home that night, I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me for months. The money itself, while still significant, had become secondary to the healing it represented. Amanda would eventually repay the full amount, I believed that now, but the greater debt that had been repaid was the restoration of trust between us. The experience had taught me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is not what feels good in the moment. Sometimes love requires standing firm when every instinct calls for surrender. Sometimes it means allowing someone to fall so they can learn to pick themselves up. And sometimes the hardest battles yield the most meaningful victories. True love is not about endless sacrifice and martyrdom. It is about respect, boundaries, and believing in someone's capacity to grow even when they cannot see it themselves. It is about holding people accountable because you know they are capable of more than their worst behaviors. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision that hurt someone you loved in the short term, but ultimately led to positive change? Or have you struggled with setting boundaries with family members who cross lines? Let me know in the race. Comments below. Your story might help someone else facing similar challenges. If this resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the hardest choices lead to the most important growth.